this virus, how can it cross water? How can it cross air? I was like, must be nice in 2002, you don't know these things.
Hello, and welcome to I Hate Your Movie, a movie podcast where me and Dan inflict movies upon each other for entertainment purposes.
Yo.
This week we watched the film 28 Days Later, starring Cillian Murphy.
Not Cillian.
Cilly Murphy.
Cilly Murphy.
And one of the Banshees of Inisherin.
Brian Gleeson?
Brendan Gleeson.
Brendan
Gleeson.
Okay.
And a few other people that you wouldn't have heard of. Probably.
Christopher Eccleston.
Oh, yeah, Christopher Eccleston, you've heard of him.
Everyone's favorite negative naysayer. That's how I know him. Written by Alex Garland.
Alex Garland, directed by Danny Boyle.
Some of my favorite filmmakers.
Released in 2002.
Whoa.
What were you doing 22 years ago?
I was forming memories because I remember 9/11.
Okay.
I thought it was an action movie.
Right.
And I was very confused by it on the news.
Obviously, this is like a classic film, and what I was thinking about most while I was watching this film, has my taste in film changed a lot since I was watching this film? Because I remember when I first watched this film, I thought it was incredible, I thought it was amazing. I hadn't really seen anything like it before, not just because like there were new kinds of zombies, which was a very new thing at the time. I was trying to figure out when I was watching this film, if I saw it today, would I have enjoyed it as much? Because I think it kind of has the kind of problem of what I have with like Good, the Bad and the Ugly. It's like a legacy film in that it was original and no one had done that kind of stuff before, and because of that originality it's really good. But now looking back at it, is it as good as the things that it's inspired?
Mm-hmm.
And I still haven't really come to a decision on that yet.
I don't think it's a legacy film. I think the 60s to 80s Romero movies, which a lot of this borrows from, are the legacy films. They've done all these first. Paranoia, survival, the militarization and how people turn on each other, and even parts where they're like, oh, they keep some zombies around to do experiments with. Like all these come from Romero films, like of the Living Dead series.
Mm-hmm. Especially at 16, I hadn't seen any of those films. So again, like, to me, this was like a brand new thing. And because they kind of reinvented the zombies away from this shuffling, I don't feel it's a scary enough concept.
Really?
Yeah, I just think anything you could walk briskly away from.
Do you know my one sentence review, by the way?
Oh yeah, let's do your one sentence
Our
review.
only segment. This is the best movie ever made. That was filmed on a Motorola Razr. I really liked it.
Cool.
But man, oh man, it's hard to get over that old consumer-grade camera filming. It looks shit.
You kind of have to approach it from like a found footage perspective.
Yeah, it works like that. And they tried so hard, creative angles, creative kind of lighting. And sometimes they get away with it. Sometimes I'm like, what am I looking at? I'm approaching this from a very specific angle, which is, I'm not one of those people who like, oh, film, everything has to be on film, like Quentin Tarantino says, because, oh, it's so much richer. I don't give a shit. Or I'm not even like a person who's like, everything has to be in 8K, or I don't care. But literally, I could not tell sometimes what I was looking at. I wish they would have spent some of their money. And they had some money, obviously.
Did they?
Well, they done a lot with it if they didn't. But I wish they would have cut something to future-proof it for film. It looks like a grungy skateboarding video your mate did.
So I've just asked the producer for the budget of this film, and it was £5 million. Given the fact that they've had to shut off some of London and they've had to shut off some of the motorways.
Did they, though?
I'm not sure about London. They got the police to shut down the M1 for a short while.
What I always heard about this movie is that it's a very guerrilla kind of shooting, and they just went around and then they tried to get so early the first light, you know, when there's literally no one else around.
Yeah.
That was my impression always.
I kind of avoided that because I don't want to break that urban myth. Like I want to keep that in my mind as something they did, which is...
It might have been like a mix.
Yeah.
Because I can imagine on the motorways would have been hard.
Yeah.
Especially on the M25, mate. I wrote down mandatory M25 joke has to be inserted because we're somewhat British and we're somewhat comedy related, and everyone has to make a mandatory M25 joke one day. Let's go back to slow and fast zombies.
Okay, yeah.
I don't understand why it's different, because what's scary to me is not really the zombies.
Right.
It's the pandemic. It's the virus. It's something that can affect your loved ones. It's something that is very easily can create a post-apocalypse. That's what's scary to me. Now, whether the virus is slowly shuffling towards me or running towards me, it doesn't really matter to me.
Oh, of course it does, because that massively increases the probability of you catching said virus. If you've got a zombie over there 100 meters away and it shuffles slowly towards you and you can just walk away or have a little jog, close a door. But if you've got a zombie 100 meters away and it's sprinting at you full pelt like some crazed lunatic, it's going to get you. I'm not being funny, but I'm not in the best shape. I ain't going to be able to run away from a 28 days later zombie. A Romero zombie, I've got a good chance, you know?
But with the Romero zombies, the whole idea is that, yes, you can run away from them, but they will overpower you with their numbers.
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like, you just stay away from the herds.
I think always the bigger part of it, and this movie does it as well, which is the social commentary aspect of it, as the humans turn on against each other and all like social structures disappear. And to me, that's more interesting than the whatever, either shuffling or running zombie, you know. To me, the zombie is just a tool. It could be a virus. It could be anything.
Yeah, could be the happening.
It could be the happening.
What? No.
The trees. The trees are coming to kill you.
Mark Wahlberg. Amazing acting, you know, as well.
Any Patreons listen, do not put that in our bag of doom. Right, should we get into the film?
Let's get into the film.
My first note for this film, because I can't remember how it started. I think because we were watching it on like old school DVD, because we had to go back to the time it was made.
Yeah.
And watch it in its proper form.
There's no Blu-ray that exists.
No, because it's too poor quality for Blu-ray.
Yeah.
And it came up with like loads of like stuff from the film, but it looked like an introduction, so we got very confused for a second. My first note when that came up, before the film had even started, was I'm very worried about the special effects of this film.
In the menu, and the menu was...
Yeah.
Okay. I would say the special effects in this film rate from god-awful to okay. And that could be scene to scene. It's very mixed to me.
One of the things that is quite consistent, I find, with like zombie things these days is they leave the reason behind the outbreak to people's imagination. Shaun of the Dead, I think, does that. It's kind of this thing on the news about a radioactive outbreak, and I think there's another thing later on the news of like a meteor that lands, so you never really know. I haven't got to the end of it, but as far as I know, The Walking Dead never really says how the virus started. And that seems to be pretty consistent. What's your thoughts on immediately knowing how this virus started and how it escaped?
I could take it or leave it.
Yeah.
I think what's more important about that scene is the social commentary. Because we are the monkey that's tied down and watching news that just upsets us.
Okay.
That was my takeaway from it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a very artistic.
That's what I got from it. Because what does the monkey watch? And it's interesting that this was filmed during 9/11-ish times.
Okay.
Was this filmed after 9/11? Because then it would make a lot of sense.
During.
But like this specific scene.
Nearly all of this film was filmed in sequence. And they added very little by the end of it.
Then it's very interesting that what the monkey watches is Iraqis beating up a Saddam puppet. Did you notice that? This is when the monkey watches the TV.
Yeah.
And what's on the TV? And on the TV is like riots and that kind of stuff.
But none of that footage is real. They
Really?
staged that footage, yeah.
Why did it look like Saddam Hussein? It was a guy with a mustache with dark hair and is like an Iraqi kind of Middle Eastern setting.
I didn't get any of that. I got that setting, but I thought it was just like, I thought the idea of it was just like some random villager and a mob rule had overcome and they'd just hung him and they were beating him.
I was thinking that it's a very good accidental analogy of post 9/11 response. Monkey is tied down, is watching all this rage-filled news It's kind of like a person at home watching all the news at the time, all the manufactured content, all the selective news about trying to make people think one way. It was kind of like that. And then, even though this was before the war on terror and 9/11, it's crazy how analogous it is, because that is the virus. The rage is the virus. They make it clear in this film. As one scientist says it in a very hokey line that was straight from like a 50s science fiction.
What are they infected with?
Rage.
Rage.
Oh my god. Alex Garland, what are you doing?
You can really see the progression
Oh yeah.
of his talent.
I did feel like this is a very smart person who wrote this, but not quite bloomed as an artist yet, you know? It's like a rough diamond.
By the way, if you're enjoying this episode, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe. And we also have a Patreon,
where for £1 or $1 a month, you can listen to bonus episodes that we do and also recommend us movies and join a great community of people. Patreon.com/IHateYourMovie. It's also in the description box. Check it out. Thank you very much.
This scene kind of worried me a little bit because obviously in this film you've got some really talented people, Brendan Gleeson, Cillian Murphy, Christopher Eccleston, but the acting of these extras in this first scene was just cringy.
It didn't help that it was video and it was 30 frames per second, because that makes it look like Coronation Street. You know, like it doesn't look like a film. All that very smooth motion, it's not very filmy. In my head, immediately goes soap opera. That looks like a soap opera. Also, I don't know if we want to go into this, but at the end of the movie, it said no animals were harmed during this production. I mean, it depends what your definition of harmed is, but I would feel like tying down a monkey, a chimp,
Yeah.
all limbs, and it's confused that it doesn't know what it's doing. It's kind of animal abuse.
Depends if it was harmed. If it's like trying to escape and it hurts its wrists, then that's harmed.
Yeah.
If it's just lying there kind of like, ooh, what's going on?
There's later examples of it as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's later a very artistic, I kind of liked it, but I felt a bit shit about it as well. There's an artistic shot of a fishbowl,
Oh,
barely
yeah.
filled with water,
Yeah.
and the fish is trying to
They're just trying to swim around, but it's
swim
only
around.
like an
There's
inch of
nothing
water. Yeah.
there. And like, no animals were harmed during this production. I don't know about that. I'm not sure PETA would approve. So yeah, monkey go ape shit.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Monkey see, monkey do.
Because he's seen all the violence, now
Yeah.
it's doing all the violence. Scientist in this scene, he says, oh, they're infected with rage, but they've been injected with like blockers to stop them being so violent in places.
I don't remember that. Okay.
So hoping like in 28 years later, maybe they go back to the Cambridge Institute for Animal Research. Maybe that's the end.
Yeah. Do you think RAGE is an acronym for something? They're infected with radioactive, atomic, gyroscopic, E. coli.
Enforcers. No, E. coli was better.
E. coli, yeah. Radioactive, atomic, gyroscopic E. coli. Penis. We see a penis.
We do see Cillian Murphy's penis.
So I wrote down, I kept busy of giving his penis nicknames. So
What?
we get to see Cillian's Murphy.
Okay.
We get to see his fat man.
Right. Okay.
We get to see his little boy.
Right.
We get to see his Oscar. His little Oscar. We get to see his Thomas Shelby. And we get to see his Scarecrow. There you go. That's all my penis jokes this episode.
My favourite was Scarecrow.
Yeah.
White little boy, I didn't.
They are the names of the atomic bombs dropped
Okay.
in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Fat man and little boy.
I didn't actually understand why A, he was naked, and B, that he didn't have any sheets. Like, that's not how people are in hospitals.
Yeah, throughout the film, I thought that he has some sort of connection to these experiments because he was so weirdly set up.
Okay.
And later on, we found out no. But he had like such a comical scar as well. The way he was laid out and naked,
Yeah.
he kind of reminded me of the monkey at the beginning. Like, is this supposed to be like some sort of visual parallel with the monkey? He had his arms up like the monkey. He was tied down.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Why are you like that in the hospital bed? You know? And then all the equipment looked weird. Like, he didn't look very hospital-y. And then COVID happened. It reminded me of the COVID times. Pandemic era when this is London and It's supposed to be hundreds of people, but there's no one around.
It would have been easier to film.
Yeah, yeah. They should have took advantage of that.
So we were having like a little discussion the other day about if or not they just filmed it guerrilla or they actually shut parts of London down. And I came to the conclusion they probably shut it down because there's trash everywhere. The bridge in front of Big Ben, you can't just get up at 3 a.m, spread loads of newspapers all over it and then film.
You can totally do that. You never did guerrilla filmmaking like I did. It was like I did so many dodgy things. Filmed in like and stuff and until people told me to fuck off. One day we'll watch my films. I just have to dub them in English. I have to subtitle them.
Here's a question for you. You wake up in a hospital, you know, everyone's disappeared. What do?
I pretty much do the same. I collect the money that he finds on the ground. I thought that was a nice touch because he's not quite sure what's happening.
I don't think the first thing people would do in a crisis situation is like throw their money in the air and it would just be on the ground. Like, there's no reason money would just be on the ground, but still be in people's wallets.
You don't know what happened.
Yeah.
That's it. I don't think it implied that people just throw money around. I think it implied that something went wrong and people had to leave shit behind, you know?
Yeah, because that's what people do when they leave their stuff behind. They immediately open all their wallets and purses, throw everything out of it onto the floor in Trafalgar Square, and then walk away.
Here's a scenario. What if a guy who was a shop owner was fleeing with his tail?
Okay, yeah. Okay, I'll give you that one.
There you go. There's lots of examples you can come up with.
Okay.
Yeah, I would pretty much do the same thing as him. He was very rational at the beginning.
I would go home. You would walk home. That's what you would do.
He does, eventually.
Eventually. I think it's because I've been to London so many times. Like, I know exactly where he is and where it is in relation to the next bit of where he is.
Oh, okay.
And he literally does a loop because he crosses the Big Ben Bridge, then goes through Trafalgar Square, then he goes up to Centre Point, and then he loops back around and he finds himself down by the river again.
Okay. He walks into the church and there's like piles of bodies. Again, the video-ness of the quality. I was like, what am I looking at? What is that? Oh, it's supposed to be like piles of bodies on top of each other. The limitation is not helping your movie, unfortunately.
I quite like that. I quite like that it was difficult to make out. So you're just kind of like, what is that? And
yeah.
you slowly start to make out bodies and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah, that's the other aspect of it, is that some horror works when there's like something obscuring things. And that's why people think that the best horror was in like the VHS era.
Okay.
Because it would just look shit. I think there's other creative ways where you can do that. Creative use of shadows, lighting, camera work, all that. You don't need to look like your mate's homemade video.
Here's something that got to me about the whole thing was he's walking around the city. And it's later in the film, this is everywhere. But in this scene, you don't see it at all. Like, where's the bodies? Where's the blood? Where's the gore? Like, where... I know the idea is, where is everyone? But later in the film, you know, when they go through, like, checkpoints or they go to a certain, like, built-up cities, there's, like, dead bodies. They're there just, like, rotting.
Yeah. Well, there's two answers for that. One is the filmmaking answer, is that they wanted to have it as a surprise when we see the piles of bodies in the church. And the second, I don't know, it could be that when there was still government, and obviously that is pretty much where the government is situated. So that's priority number one, to keep the streets clean. Maybe they were kind of doing some sort of cleanup effort at first, and then clean up the bodies and shove them in the church.
Maybe, yeah.
Corpse of Boris Johnson. Well, this is
plan a NATO summit. That's a fairly large multitasking. But that's kind of a lot.
I know, but we're full of energy.
And then Survivors.
First of all, we watched Madam Web for a little while.
Yeah. I was going to ask you about that. I'm very curious because I kind of know what the American situation is with like branding. Like if you show a brand, you need to clear that shit.
Yeah.
Like, is that the same thing here? Because first of all, there's so many brands. Second of all, I don't think these brands would give money to this movie. You know, I don't think Pepsi gave money to this movie. But it might have.
I think it might have, because this bit, it makes total sense. Like brand integration makes total sense. He needs a drink, so he raids like a stall.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has to drink something. And if you see a Pepsi logo in that, fine, whatever. But there's a bit later in the film as well where she's rustling through a cupboard and she literally just puts a Pepsi on the side, logo facing the camera. And at that point, it's like they've given you money for that.
But there's later scenes where they're like, oh, I've got Pepsi, I've got Lilt. Do you have Tango? And I was like, all these three companies, either all these are Pepsi companies or
I think they're all Pepsi companies.
they're swimming in that Lilt money. The infamous Lilt money. R.I.P. Lilt.
Maybe to clear the branding. I'm not sure about Lilt, actually. I'm pretty sure Tango and Pepsi are the same company.
Lilt is now Fanta.
And that's definitely not.
Yeah,
'cause
that's Coca-Cola.
That's Coca-Cola. So maybe like they put the Pepsi in the film and one of the legal guys came up to them and was like, excuse me, you've advertised Pepsi here. You need to make sure that you address that other drinks are available. And that's why they put it in the thing. Like, would you like a Pepsi? Would you like a Lilt? Would you like a...
Yeah, it's just such a grungy, low budget movie. Maybe back then it would have been beneficial for them. Now I can't see Pepsi would promote a movie like this, you know. If Modern Web was filmed on a Motorola Razr, I don't think they would get the Pepsi money.
Where would you hold up? Say you couldn't go home.
Yeah.
Where would you hold up in the zombie apocalypse? And would it be different if it was Romero or 28 Days Later Zombies?
It wouldn't be different because whatever I choose would be secure enough that the problem would be overpowering and not the speed.
Okay.
I would choose a shop is good. There's one thing that these movies never address really is the access to fresh water.
Mm-hmm.
That would be nice.
Sisters.
Kind of. The access to fresh Pepsi.
No, he does. He's the guy on the roof when he's got all the baskets. It's got the washing basket.
It's got the washing basket. I love this film. There's so many hokey, silly things in it.
Yeah, you'd need to be by a river.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, some sort of army base would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Where would you go?
Prison.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, all the power would be off.
Mm-hmm.
I assume that most prison these days are like electric, like magnet gates and that kind of thing. You know, you push the button up and it opens. Mm-hmm. So you'd do that, and you'd just get loads of bike locks. So you'd bike lock it shut.
Mm-hmm. Imprison yourself.
Imprison yourself.
Not bad.
I would do all the fun stuff as well, though. I'd go find like Ferraris and shit. I'd go break into like the Porsche garage and go fucking nuts.
That's part of the fun in these movies. Are the things you can't do in civilized society. Raid a shop.
I've always thought of like the first thing I would do if then society broke down is I'd secure the library.
Well, for future knowledge.
Yeah. Like, I don't know how to farm. I don't know how to raise livestock. I don't know how to gut a fish. Like, you'd need that information. So the first thing you should do in an apocalyptic situation, protect the library.
The only problem with that is that libraries nowadays just have computers.
Nah, there's loads of books still.
How are you going to fill your stomach with paper?
Well, I'm going to learn how to fill my stomach with stuff. So, because again, like, what do you forage? Like, what's safe and what's not? You need a foraging book. You need a way to build traps.
Post-apocalyptic survival for dummies.
I reckon it'll be in there.
Yeah.
I reckon something will be in there. There'll definitely be, like, more information than I currently have. And information that I could use to survive.
Yeah. What if it ends in a Twilight Zone situation? You know what I'm talking about?
No.
There's an infamous episode of Twilight Zone about a guy in post-apocalypse, and he goes to the library.
Really?
He's like, finally, he's like a nerd. He's like, finally, I have all the time in the world to read all these books, and he drops his glasses and it breaks. And he's like, no. What if that happens?
It's a genuine concern.
Yeah.
Because, I wear glasses, and what would you do if you break your glasses?
You're done.
Yeah.
The small man in the glasses who wanted nothing but time. Henry Bemis, now just a part of a smashed landscape, just a piece of the rubble, just a fragment of what man has deeded to himself. Mr. Henry Bemis in the Twilight Zone.
We have covered almost none of this film.
No, and it's been an hour. My next note is when Cillian Murphy goes home.
Yep, that's what I got next.
His parents committed suicide.
Yep.
It was a nice note that saying, we didn't want to wake you up. We wish that you don't wake up. Which is, kind of fucked up, but nice at the same time.
They all sit down and have a little heart-to-heart. This story in here, this is what really, hit me, and I didn't remember it from watching it before. It's when the guy tells the story about being at Paddington Station, and everyone's trying to escape. I don't know. He keeps saying we're going to get a flight. I don't know how you're going to get a flight from Paddington Station, because that's...
Is City Airport close by?
No, not even close.
Okay.
Again, if you don't live near London, if you don't go very often, that means...
Yeah,
you know,
Rick is a London...
like, it's fine.
this is only his problem.
Exactly. And he talks about how everyone's trying to get to the flights and how the floor is bouncy or something. I can't remember what word he uses. But then he looks down and it's just people.
Yeah.
It's just people that have fallen over. And he's like trampling them to death. When it all really kicks off and the infected gets in, it's just people climbing over people. And that's what he did. And he was with his sister and he let go of her hand and he had to escape that situation. And that's really kind of like...
It was a good monologue.
Okay, right. So now we can get into it a little bit, right? So first floor, stupid. Real stupid. Like in any situation where you might get attacked, you create as little access points as possible. You don't sit on the bottom floor when someone can jump through a window at you. You'd be on the second floor, sitting there in the bedrooms with a locked door, so no one sees you, with the curtains closed. So even if you do light a candle, it can't be seen.
Yeah.
And they're all just sitting in the front room next to these giant windows. I mean, he's a fucking idiot for lighting a candle in the first place. Like, duh. You're in an apocalypse where people can see you. You're lighting lights around the place, dipshit. But fine. But don't be on the ground floor. I keep saying first floor. In my mind, that's the ground floor, by the way.
Okay. I was wondering.
Yeah.
I think I'd be the first one to die in a zombie post-apocalypse because I never think about these things like you do. I think I'd be the one trampled immediately. I don't have any survival skills whatsoever. Is this where the guy gets infected, the one of the survivors?
Yeah.
There's a bit here where the lady, Selena, kills the infected guy very quickly.
Yep.
And then they threw an awkward puppet down the stairs. Did you notice that?
No.
I think you probably noticed that I was chuckling throughout this movie. It was things like that. And my next note is him meeting the other survivors.
Yep. So he meets the Banshees and...
The Banshees.
meets one of the Banshees.
Brendan Gleeson. This part of the movie was very realistic to me. Them meeting another bit of survivors. But like, I hated it at the same time. I wish it was less realistic. Because I don't want to be in an apocalypse, right? And I meet another little group of survivors, and they're all like British to me, and they're all like, "Yeah, come on, have a cup of tea." Like, I would hate that. Can you just be real? You know, it's the post-apocalypse. Do you have to still be so British?
My favourite thing is they serve them creme de menthe.
But like, he doesn't acknowledge that like they're survivors. There's nothing. It could be just they came over for dinner, you know. And I kind of hate that. I would turn around. No, I can't do this. I can't.
My fear of that whole situation is when they're just sitting there and he hands them their drinks and there's this awkward silence where it's like when you go to like a dinner party and like nobody's got anything to say. I'd rather be outside with the zombies.
Yeah. That's the thing. They would have something to talk about.
Yeah.
Plenty, actually. But they still act like polite British people. Just come over for a cup of tea. Why? Why are you still acting like that? I have the same problem with Under the Skin. Have you ever seen that movie?
I can't remember.
It's
Scarlett Johansson.
Scarlett Johansson. She's an alien.
Okay.
Abducts.
Is that the one where she becomes a USB drive in the end?
No, that's Lucy. That's where she uses 100% of her brain. That movie. We need to watch that movie one day. We just need to. Because it's so fucking stupid. But I'm talking about Under the Skin. It's an A24 movie. And the first half of the movie is literally Scarlett Johansson, documentary style, going around in the van and talking to Scottish, like, teenagers and young men in, like, a luring way. I like that idea, and it was very natural and raw, but I just hate it because it's like, other than the Scottish accent, it was just like her. And I just can't watch it because it's too real. And it's just like if I go outside now, and I talk to people, and I don't want that in my movie, you know? Also with the Britishism, by the way, can we just point out that it's just a bunch of Irish people pretending to be British?
So this is where the water. This is where they go up to the roof, and he explains why they want to leave, because they can't get enough water.
Yeah, so they have this roof with a bunch of buckets and things, and I don't know, they couldn't find enough buckets or something, and so they have some laundry baskets that have holes in them all the way down. Oh, silly.
I mean, it might be a filmmaking thing, but to me, it looked more like the character's desperation. He's just
Sure.
put stuff on the roof as much as he can on the roof as possible.
It was like 2 laundry baskets, so like you could have got rid of that and still have loads of buckets, you know?
I think even with a laundry basket, you'd have like an inch of water. I can go along with a lot of this film. I think I read once that there is like a strand of rabies that's quite close to like this, or that would be its closest form. I can go along with, you know, the fact that he survived hospital. I can go along with the fact that the society is broken down and all the thing. But I think the one thing that's the least believable of this film, Brendan Gleeson says that he's in London and it hasn't rained for 10 days.
Yeah, oh my god. I want to talk about the worst actor ever.
The girl.
The daughter.
Oh my god. She's just awful.
Yeah.
Like, where did they find her?
It looked like she was reading it live
Yeah.
from a cue card.
Yep.
She stuck out so much because everyone else was really good. But I created an explanation for it in my head.
Right.
Because later on in the movie, when they're at the military boys, Selena offers her Valium
Yep.
to make her not care. Was she already on Valium somehow? Like throughout this film. And that's why she's like weird and wooden and robotic.
Well, she does live in a tower block in London, so she probably is on some kind of drugs.
Yeah,
as
so
a teenager.
that's my explanation for her bad acting.
It's genuinely terrible.
Yeah.
If you told me that was Danny Boyle's daughter and he just threw her in there for the sake of it,
Yeah.
I'd believe you. There's a scene where they leave. They stop in Budgeon's.
Well, what's Budgeon's?
It's just like a little supermarket.
It was very well stocked.
Very well stocked after the apocalypse. They walk through the door and then they're just like they're making like putting tins in their dryer. Crashes the trolley into a glass cabinet. Sets off some fireworks in the corner.
I don't know. I like that bit. Even though it was weird that it's like a pristine shop that's perfectly stocked.
Like there's zombies and shit about that. Like just you'd be quiet and you'd loot quietly. You'd get a basket full of stuff and you'd go.
Well, just like in real life, people, when in the shop, their IQ drops to like 80 points.
Although I will say that my favourite bit about that scene is when they leave and he puts his credit card on the side.
Yeah. They go to Manchester. Interestingly, Manchester, they look at it in the background and it looks pretty much like what it is now.
It's a complete wasteland.
Yeah, complete wasteland, fire, little nuclear explosions.
I wish they'd made a joke of that. They wish they pulled up and was like, oh, at least Manchester's unaffected.
That's exactly what I was thinking. They look at like the fiery, like this is involved in fire, and it's like, yep, that's where we're going.
I think I've bitched enough about the kind of idiocy of some of the scenes.
Yeah,
But I do want to quickly mention.
but you do want to bitch more.
I do want to bitch some more. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm about to do. Why the fuck are they camping outside? Oh my god. What the fuck?
That was weird, yeah. Fire and stuff.
Oh yeah, they're sitting outside in the dark next to a fire. Earlier in the film, the guy's got a candle and the zombie jumps through a window to get him.
Yeah.
And now they're all sitting outside in their sleeping bags, having a lovely little thing, marshmallows over the fire. What? No, come on.
It was like too remote.
Yeah, but you just wouldn't risk it, would you?
Yeah, I did see like there was a church in the back as well. Why don't you go to that?
Yeah. Also, they go to stop for petrol.
Yeah.
And I liked
I didn't like that bit.
I liked some of this scene
Yeah?
because because they drove up to the petrol garage and like you can't get petrol from a petrol garage, come on. But they didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then they drove up to the petrol tanker and I'm like, you can't get petrol out of a petrol tanker, come on. But they don't. They go to its little side pouch bit,
Yeah.
and they get petrol from there.
Siphon it. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, yay, that's clever. But then he's like, oh, I'm going to take my bat. Should I go into this abandoned building that's dark and I can't see anything? Yeah, why not?
And his justification is that it says there's cheeseburgers. We're like, do you think there's still cheeseburgers? Do you think they're still fresh?
I thought that was like a sarcastic thing that he was saying to her. I don't think he was actually looking for
No?
cheeseburgers, no.
I was thinking it was. Then there's nothing.
It's stupid.
Yeah, it's just plain
stupid.
I wish they was just looking for cheeseburgers. That's 10% better than nothing.
So yeah, they get to the checkpoint.
Yeah, they get to the beginning of Manchester. The beginning of the end. That's what we call Manchester as well. Yeah, so the dad fucks around and finds out. He's being stupid as well. It's like poking a corpse that's above him,
Yeah.
bleeding.
Yeah. Oh, there's a bird. Let me poke you with my stick.
Yeah. So blood gets in his eye and he gets infected.
Thought it was a really clever way that he got infected. He was an idiot, but you could have easily just made it like a zombie came out, bit him, and he started turning. And then there's this really like emotional bit where they have to kill him.
There's a tiny drop of blood that gets in his eye. It's kind of like tragic almost.
Yeah.
It's like this small stupid thing and it all goes shit. But my favorite bit in that is he gets shot like 10 times by the military and the daughter is like, Dad? Just imagine like the RoboCop scene. It's like, Dad?
And she has all the acting ability and power of Neil Breen.
Yeah.
Why did you get shot, Dad? Dad, why did you get shot? Why would you do it? Why would you get shot, Dad?
Yeah. I knew Neil Breen had a lasting impact. Why did you get shot? How did you get shot?
I can't believe you committed suicide. I cannot believe you committed suicide. How could you have done this? How could you have committed suicide?
Because this film was pretty much shot in order, it does make you wonder whether she was always going to be on Valium, or they just put that into the film towards the end just to explain how shit she is.
Yeah. So Christopher Eccleston,
Christopher Eccleston,
he shows up.
Doctor Who shows up.
Yeah, you know him as Doctor Who. People know him as the Dark Elf from Thor 2, the Dark Thor. I know him as the whiny bitch from Life.
Life.
Yeah, because I know watch his Doctor Who. All I know is that he bitches about all his roles constantly. Oh, the hours were too long. He thought that Thor 2 would be like a major role. He thought it's going to be like some artsy project. You're an idiot. And I bet he bitched about this too somehow. That's all I hear about him. And I kind of annoyed with him. I'm like, come on. Stop bitching about everything. You're an actor. Of course you're going to work long hours. Not everything you do is going to be masterpiece. You're a slave to the material. Deal with it. Stop bitching.
Yeah, he quit Doctor Who because he didn't want to be typecast as Doctor Who.
Well,
like
he's
sci-fi.
an idiot then, because obviously he would be.
Yeah, don't do it in the first place if you can.
Yeah. Don't do Thor 2, the Dark Thor. Just quit acting.
Yeah. Surely he's earned enough money now that he can just retire.
Yeah. Do something that you like. I want him to be happy. He was pretty good in this film. After all that. It's pretty good.
Okay, so Rebel Moon.
Okay.
Because we really bitched and moaned about Rebel Moon, about
Yeah.
the soldiers in that being just dicks.
Yeah.
And we felt it was cheap. We felt it was pointless.
One-dimensional.
One-dimensional. You know, they were trying to get one of the girls in the barn, and it was just kind of like, come on, this is shit. Now, effectively, that's what happened here.
I don't think so.
Do you not?
I think the context is very different.
Yep.
In Rebel Moon, they were dicks for being dick's sake. The only thing you can say in defense of that is artistically, not in defense of the soldiers. The only thing you can say in defense of that is that they're soldiers and they have some sort of power and they're abusing that power.
Yep.
But in this one, there's the element of institutions breaking down. There's no more rules.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them tried to kill himself. And the only thing he could think of at the moment is he promised that he'll bring women around. And that's what stopped him killing himself.
Okay, so I think it's a little bit deeper, because what he says is they will survive today as a group of like 8 men, but what about the future? What about, what about like raising families and living
That's
normal
part of
lives?
it too. But I'm just talking about the grunt soldiers now.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's more believable in this environment to behave animalistic and go rapey and start abusing your power even more, the power that you have a gun.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's way different because it's all built up so that it makes sense. Instead of in Rebel Moon, just happens without any really contextual information.
Yep. Do you not think it's slightly a cheap avenue to go down?
No, I didn't think so. I think it was so well explained.
Okay.
If it was more graphic, maybe, then it would be like, oh, the filmmakers just want this for cheap sex stuff. But it wasn't really. It didn't really get into that. It was just suggesting that that's going to happen.
Yeah.
It made me think about, like, what would this scene look today? Would there be, like, homosexuality as well?
Well, I was going to ask about that.
Yeah.
Like, tell me if I'm imagining this. Right, so they've got a guy in the kitchen who's the cook.
Yeah, it's a pink
and they've got the pink apron. I'm wondering if he's the bitch of the group.
Maybe. I didn't think of that. I was just thought that he's kind of like the clown.
Because he looks really like nervous and jittery the whole time.
Okay, yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So obviously Cillian Murphy doesn't agree. So they take him. I like this bit. I like the guy who was arguing as well. He wasn't down with the people, so he stood up and got thrown out for it.
Yeah, and he's in detainment.
Yeah.
Kind of ranting like, oh, the whole of UK is just a big quarantine. Like, they wouldn't say that now. 'Cause he was saying things like, oh, this virus, how can it cross water? How can it cross air? I was like, must be nice in 2002, you don't know these things. There was some inappropriate kissing though, which I didn't like.
Okay.
Between Cillian Murphy and Selena.
Okay.
There's some inappropriate kissing twice, I think. There's one when they were like, all four of them together, and she pours her heart out and becomes a bit emotional, and he kisses her. I was like, don't take advantage of the emotional invulnerability. 2002, we learn. And then the same thing again, pretty much later on, when he goes Rambo and kills all the soldiers, and he comes in and he's all bloody and gross.
Yeah.
And he's like kissing her in the mouth. I was like, don't do that.
No, he's got, The whole thing is there's blood that you can't get in your mouth or eyes or anything, and you've got blood all over your face.
Yeah. Even though that part of it wasn't really set up, I liked his Rambo-ness. And I kind of imagined, because he almost played Batman, the Nolan Batman films. He auditioned for it. Kind of imagine like Batman-y, sneaky Batman-y guy. That's kind of nice.
My favourite bit about his whole Rambo thing is, I don't know if it looked the same to you, but to me it looked like it was shot the same way as when the zombies move.
Okay.
So when you see from their point of view, it's all very shaky and it's all very kind of rah. And especially like there's a bit where the army guy pokes his head up through, he's climbing some scaffolding. And then there's like Cillian Murphy's got a wrench or something, it's like do, bam. And it's very much the same as when the zombies attack.
That would explain why when he meets Selena again, he goes up to her and Selena's like, puts up her weapon. Like, oh, is he a zombie now?
Yeah.
And my favorite character makes an appearance.
Yeah.
From Wet Hot American Summer. The pottery breaking sound effect. Cillian kisses Selena and the daughter comes in with the bottle. And it's that sound effect. It's the pottery breaking sound effect. Oh, so happy.
My favourite bit about this as well, because everything really starts to break down now, is the music.
Oh yeah, the music was really good.
Yeah, it like really slowly starts to build up.
I felt like I heard it before.
Yeah,
Maybe I
same.
accidentally heard it on like a compilation or something.
I also heard you audibly wince. This is the bit where he kills the army guy.
Yeah.
And he does it by pushing his thumbs into the eyes of the army guy.
Yeah.
Which I'm not going to talk about anymore.
Thank you. Yeah, I don't like eye stuff.
No.
But that's an effective way to kill someone for sure.
You think?
Oh yeah.
I mean, your thumb's going to reach far enough into the eye sockets to touch the brain?
Totally.
You reckon?
Also, it's like a good grip on a person. It is. You know, you kind of need your head for stability to move around. And then,
Do you?
Yeah, well.
All those chickens have taught me nothing. They escape, and then my next note is Captain Psychopath gets a taxi to the doors.
Yeah, it was a bit silly as well.
Yeah.
How he dies. But it was set up that the daughter can do the donuts with the taxi. Did she know that the zombie will break in the
back window?
Back window. It's kind of like...
And the dude's got a gun.
Yeah.
Why doesn't he just shoot her in the back of the head?
Yeah.
And then that's it. It's done, isn't it? My last bitchy moment of this thing...
Is it though?
Probably not. Is that you can't ram gates. If you're in a car and you see gates that are locked in front of you, you are not going to be able to ram them.
No?
No. They did it on Mythbusters.
Okay.
And yeah, it always ended badly.
Okay. But we don't talk about the zombie that's locked up for experiment.
Okay, yeah.
That's straight from one of the Romero films. I always forget the title, but the third one. Because the Romero zombie films are really interesting, where it goes from, oh, there's this problem, to second one, having fun with it. That's the mall one. It's like almost like a comedy. And the third one is like a really depressing one, where it almost goes into like, well, maybe they're not so bad after all. Maybe zombies should take over. It's really bleak and dark. And they do keep a zombie with his chain around his neck. They do like intellectual experiments on him. Like he can pick up a phone.
Okay.
He doesn't talk, but like he understands what the motion is and things like that. So I was like, yeah, that's straight from there.
Okay. Because nitpicky, I know.
Didn't you just say this is the last time you're going to bitch?
I'm not going to bitch. I'm just going to be nitpicky about the whole zombie thing.
Yeah.
My biggest experience with zombies is watching The Walking Dead, the first 7 series.
Oh, really? That's sad.
And it bugs me how they're alive. Like, it's not possible for them to be alive. You will run out of energy.
Yeah.
You can't get more.
The Walking Dead really goes off the rails with that because they're pretty much skeletons sometimes.
Yeah, and it doesn't make any sense
Yeah,
whatsoever.
they don't have no muscles to move and anything.
Exactly. So it takes, because I looked it up.
For research purposes.
Yeah.
How long does the body takes to decompose, right?
No, I looked up, so how long you can survive without food and water. And it's about a week.
Yeah. Water less so, right?
Yeah, so if you drink only water, you can survive to 2 to 3 months. So 28 days later, unless these zombies have like a really good water source somewhere, then they'll be dead. That's always bugs me.
Yeah.
Because realistically, it would actually be over very quickly. It wouldn't take 28 days, because 28 days later, it's that's 4 weeks. It'd be dead, especially in London, unless they're drinking like toilet water. Because if you can, mate, I'll tell you now, if they're infected and they go, oh, it's the Thames, I'm going to drink from the Thames, large boy, they'd be dead even quicker. They'd get double infected.
But in Manchester, they would thrive because it's already like that anyway. Goodbye, Manchester listeners. There's a drone shot. It's really impressive, I found.
I don't think that's a drone shot, because I don't think drones are a thing then.
That's the
I
thing.
think that's a helicopter shot.
It must be. So I thought it was really impressive and really like precise movement, even for a helicopter.
And their entire budget was on the helicopter and then the fighter jet. My favourite thing about this is they sew a big hello.
Yeah, why not SOS?
Yeah.
Hello is a bit...
It's very British.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello. And it's just a cup of tea. Just in blankets.
Yeah, they were gonna write, hello, fancy a cuppa?
Yeah.
But they hadn't got that far yet.
What if they are too slow and they only get to hell?
That's exactly what I thought, because that's what you see. They put the rest out and they run out with the O.
Yeah. Hell. And the guy in the plane is like, yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I know it's hell. Thanks for confirming.
What's apart from like fancy a cuppa, what's the most British thing you could put on?
You're alright. You're alright.
Alright, mate.
Ramen. And it's like written out like A''. Right. They could fake the mate with the M8.
Yeah. Pub? Question mark. I like the sequel because it has some really interesting kind of like what would you do moments in it. The kind of
Ethical dilemmas.
yeah. And again, there's some moments in there where like that's just stupid. Like, what are you doing, you idiot?
Yeah.
I remembering this film before I went and watched it again, I didn't think that there'd be much of that in here. I thought it was all very sensible, and I've kind of shattered my worldview by watching it again.
I'm not that hung up on those, but for me, the funny moments and the frustrating moments came with like the filmmaking of it. And it's like, you heard me, I was chuckling all the way through, but that's just little things that happen. I bet they get a bigger budget now with 28 years.
Oh,
later.
God, yeah.
Especially at Cillian Murphy now. Hot as shit. I was looking him up today because to how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Google put like a giant star as like Academy Award winner. It's like, I can't read the fucking facts, you idiot. I know. Can I read his filmography? Annoying. Right.
Cool. Even though there's some moments in it where people just think a little bit about what you're doing, that has taken this film down a ranking for me. So going in before it, I would say 8, now I'd say 7.
I'd say 7 too, but that's excluding all the video-ness of it.
Okay.
I have to take that out of the equation because it just bugs me the fuck off. And they try to make it work, and the cinematography, like the framing itself, is really good. There's find some really interesting shots.
Yeah, there's one shot where it's like the camera's like in the rafters looking down.
Lots of little interesting bits, like the fishbowl we said earlier. And like that makes up for a lot. All the creative ways they use that. But yeah, 7 out of 10.
Cool.
So what are we watching next? I'm gonna counter with another Brit-apocalypse movie.
Yeah.
It's a new genre I made up. It's called Children of Men. It's a post-apocalyptic. It's very recently post-apocalyptic because it takes place in 2020 something.
2027.
2027.
I think I read this. Yeah.
People just stopped producing babies, and just no humanity is just on the brink of doom because there's no procreation anymore. Michael Caine plays a hippie, and I remember that was really funny even back then. I think it's an amazing movie. It's very well directed. It's directed by the guy who did Gravity, if you remember that movie.
I liked Gravity.
Yeah, and the only good Harry Potter movie, The Prisoners of Azkaban, which is the only visual kind of pretty one. He's a very visual director. He's like super precise and interesting. That's all you're gonna watch.
Excellent.
Thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. We'll see you in the next one.
Penis.